It may indeed surprise you to learn that nearly 3 in 4 Canadians say, according to a new Ipsos poll, and a clip of 73%, that they practice good or healthy nutritional or eating habits, while 22% say that they eat less healthier diets, and only a small minority, coming in at 4%, say they don't value their nutritional habits and don't eat healthy at all. Neil Burchill is passionate about nutrition and lifestyle from a holistic perspective, drawing from his diverse background as a nutritional consultant, serving in the Navy as a firefighter, and his own life struggles. He helps people make sustainable lifestyle changes through mindset, work, and nutritional planning. He joined me this week to talk about nutrition from a practical perspective, cutting through the noise and making nutrition simpler to understand. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Welcome you to the program, and I'm super excited to learn all about your experience in fitness, nutrition, and everything in between, buddy. Great to see you this morning, and thank you for a few minutes.
Thank you for having me.
So, Neil, I want to dive right into it, buddy. If you want people to learn about fitness and nutrition from a practical perspective, so tell me from a practical perspective, let's talk about nutrition, buddy. What do we need to know?
Okay. The practical aspect that I come at individuals with is essentially there is no such thing as unhealthy food. I think where we've gone wrong is the application of the food itself. It's like a knife. A knife is neither good nor bad. It's the intent and skill in which it's used. So I feel that the industry right now has vilified food to a point where people are, in the fire department we called it, and even in the military we called it paralysis by analysis. We're paralyzed and unable to make these decisions, and because we're concentrating on right and left, good and bad, instead of the neutrality of food and just making it fit. And after years of working with thousands of individuals, you start to see nuances where, it's not a mathematical equation. Nutrition and living is an art. It's not a science. It's a pseudoscience. We try and use, and we blanketed, nutrition with science, but honestly, it's an art. The science might be in, making the paint, making the canvas, making the brush, but how those things are applied, how we use them, that's the art form. And I think that's a big part of what we're missing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also talk about shifting our habits and mindsets and perspective when we talk about nutrition to really embrace the healthier lifestyle you want to live, buddy. So how do we shift mindsets?
Really, I don't know if it's so much of a mindset shift as it is a mindset actualization. It's really just kind of like this hat that I wear. I wear this because I like it. It feels good on me. You know what I mean? I feel that people are out there chasing other people's ideologies of what health and fitness and vitality and happiness is. And they're leaving to waste their own individual identity. And what I do with people is help them find themselves in this landscape of health. Everybody wants to be happy, but it really just looks individual. Like it's the individual's ideas. It's the individual's perception. It'd be like you and I looking at a painting, and you saying, Neil, that painting sucks. I really don't like it. It makes me feel angry. and I'm looking at it and I'm awe-inspired. I love that painting. That painting is the best painting I've ever seen in my life. And I just don't think that there's a lot of daily connection with people to be able to kind of, you know, I guess work with them in regards to that trajectory. So what I do is I work with people on a daily basis. They have daily communication with me. I connect with them every morning when I get up, giving them positive vibes and trying to connect their everyday life and their experiences to the aspects of nutrition and trying to find the silver lining in everything, because it's all connected. We emotionally eat, but what emotion we're eating for, I think, can really turn us around.
Yeah, absolutely. And buddy, you tell me that our bodies have it all figured out, and we should listen to them. So tell me about it, buddy.
Okay, well, I mean, this isn't new for our bodies. We've been around for, since the dawn of humanity, and the bodies survived lions and tigers and bears and tectonic plate movement and you name it. And we're not here because we're the weakest. We're here because we're the strongest. And I feel that that accreditation has been taken away from us, and we're turning away from adversity. We're turning away from struggle, and we've forgotten the body's adaptive capabilities. If we develop this identity, if we find, okay, what food can I afford, what serves me best in regards to like understanding your food a little better. Okay, how much protein, fat, carbohydrates, and water do I need in order to perform the way that I want to perform? And how can I get these macronutrients in my environment that I live in and at the price point that I can afford? And it's incredible. I've worked with off-reserve Aboriginal communities that are, on social assistance, very, very low income, impoverished. And I've seen an incredible turnaround in their health because of the fact that they're being able to navigate the landscape that much better, right? They're able to pick and choose their consumers, they're purchasers. So when they go to the grocery store, they're purchasing foods a lot like we used to hunt and gather. There were certain mushrooms we couldn't eat. There were certain berries we couldn't eat. And if we didn't know the difference, we didn't survive. We didn't earn the right to procreate. And although the landscape is different, the story remains the same. If we're able to go into these grocery stores and understand what I need as an individual, what my family needs, and be able to get and procure the food for them, then they're going to be able to survive the environment. They're going to be stronger than the bacterias and viruses and the physical efforts that they have to lay out in order to earn the right to survive and live here on this planet.
Yeah, and
Right?
yeah, absolutely. And Neil, you dived into this a little bit earlier in our conversation, but I wanted to dive just a little bit deeper to get your perspective on how we're being sold different fitness messages that take away from the overall goal. Because you said that we're being sold messages when it comes to fitness that are unproductive. So I'm wondering if you can tell me about it.
Absolutely. Where we've gotten our wires crossed is we have people out there that are telling other people what to do. So they're enabling as opposed to empowering. So everybody's got a hack, everybody has a method. And, from a sales standpoint, absolutely. You have to plant your flag. You've got to, my car is different than their car because of X, Y, and Z. But at the end of the day, it's the car that suits you best as opposed to the car that has the most money marketing it and has the most advertising on TV to brainwash you to purchase that particular car, or the car or the brand that's popular at that particular time. And that's what the health industry has gotten into is, when you look at different cultures that don't have a health industry, where their food isn't economized or a money to it in regards to how they run their economy, their people are a lot healthier. When you start to industrialize and economize something that is needed like food, then you get the sales tactics and the marketing and this, that, and making things over confusing, right? Making things so incredibly confusing that you don't know what to do, so that you have to hire someone like myself in order to learn how to do it, when there's other countries that don't have nutritionists, they don't have gyms, but they don't have obesity, heart disease, diabetes, dementia, Alzheimer's, to name just off the top of my head, the incidences of that are so much lower, and they don't know the first thing about nutrition, but their culture is set up that way. So their parents taught them, your parents teach you, you teach your children type thing, and we've lost that here. And there's a lot of money making to be had at that from a lot of nefarious sources when it comes to, okay, this is the hack. So if you cut out all of your fat and just eat simply carbohydrates, you're going to be healthy. I fell into that when I was in my early 20s. And then all of a sudden, okay, no, carbohydrates are bad for us. So now, right, to sell something, there has to be a villain and there has to be a hero. I'm selling you the hero. Here's the tactics, or here's the supplement, or here's this. And this is the villain. This is what you need to stay away from. And what I'm a proponent of is, you know what, we need all of it. It all works. Our human bodies are built from all of those. It's just figuring out the percentages and how much of it and what your balance is. And that's where we circle right back again to the identity.
Yeah, Neil, I have to tell you that I personally am a big proponent of we make time for the things that are important to us, and we always have to prioritize what's important to us. So my next question has to do with forming good nutritional habits and motivation. How do you think they're interconnected, buddy?
It's a good question. Those of you that know me, or so people that are listening to this podcast and have heard me talk and do other podcasts and have watched good content, I hate the word motivation. Absolutely despise it because of the fact that we misuse it. People often say, Neil, I don't feel well. I'm just unmotivated. I'm not losing weight. How can I get motivation to lose weight? And I feel that we've put the cart before the horse. If you want to feel motivation, like, for example, a job, you show up to work, do you get paid before or after the work is done? You get paid after. And that payment and the ability to put food on your table, a roof over your head, clothes on your kid's back, that's motivation. You know what I mean? And right now we're waiting for motivation to come and slap us in the ass and get us moving. But really, it's discipline, it's commitment, it's dedication that does that. It's knowing that where I am is not where I want to be. So David Goggins talks about it. He's, basically choose your sock, being overweight, low energy, a fraction of the partner, the mother, father, husband, wife that you could be. That sucks, but it's almost like a state of institutionalization. We get familiar with it. It's not comfortable. It's familiar. And then it gets harder to move from that familiar. But it's the matter of just taking the first step. So that's what I work with people on. It's, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. And these people come in and they're like, Neil, I want to quit smoking and I want to lose 100 pounds. And, I'd be like, okay, well, which one do you want to do? Because you can't do them both, right? Not at the same time. Why don't we choose one or the other? And of course, the majority of them, and I'm just using smoking as an example, but they'll say, okay, I want to quit smoking. I'm like, okay, so here's the scenario. So if we remove smoking, what are we replacing it with? What do you have established? What behaviors, what patterns, what do you have established to replace that addiction, right? That habit with? Well, I don't know, going to the gym, like, they spit off a bunch of stuff. So I'm like, okay, so why don't we flip this around, reverse it? Now, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to imagine someone who's just worked out, is physically fit, feels attractive to their partner, right? Has limitless energy to play with their kids and commit to their job or whatever they're, if they're an entrepreneur, right? They eat, a nutritiously balanced diet. They've got great cardiovascular health. Can you imagine this person lighting up a cigarette and taking a big drag on that cigarette? And 100% of the time, they're like, no, absolutely not. Like that would seem weird to me. And I'm like, okay, well, why don't we create that person before? And then what we'll do is two objects can occupy the same space. If we can create that person, if we lead you down that path of health and create and generate more health, then there's less space for the smoking to exist. So it becomes an easier evacuation, an easier replacement. The habits are coming in and they're forcing those other habits out. Again, we're doing things backwards. We tend to remove an object without having something to replace it. And then something unconscious comes in and replaces it. Eating, for example. So someone quits smoking, they put on 40 pounds, 50 pounds, and put themselves in another risk category. Or they start drinking, or they start gambling, or they do some other thing because they didn't have it lined up to begin with. They didn't have that idea. And, the analogy that I use for people in regarding developing habits, and this came from the book I read a while back, Atomic Habits, whereas you have to create a habit before you can improve the habit. So it's going at people from a very baseline structure, saying, okay, why don't you drive to the gym? Why don't you drive to the gym, 5 days a week for a couple weeks or a month? Just take 20 minutes out of your day, and I want you to make time to go to the gym. And then they go to the exercise. Let's go in, and here's the exercise that I want you to do. So they go in and do one exercise, and then they leave. So it's establishing those day-to-day habits, and all of a sudden it becomes automatic, right? In physical fitness, especially in athletics, you run a drill 1,000 times. Like, I worked with fighters, and one fighter was knocked out. Like, he was literally on his feet, knocked out, but his body took over, and he was able to defend himself enough to withstand the round, and then came back and won the fight. But his body, he sat down when we were at his corner, and he's like, what happened? I blacked out. I don't remember the last, minute and 40 seconds basically of the whole round. I was just on autopilot, and the body took over. And this is kind of what we're going for, is we're very busy inside our heads. We're absorbing and constantly being educated and filtered information into it. If we can get kind of an automated cycle going with the body, then the head feels a lot more comfortable knowing that the body is there with it. Like, it doesn't have to drag the body kicking and screaming. And motivation is just that. Motivation is the drill sergeant coming in and waking me up. Motivation is, the alarm going for the fire department and I had to get out of bed. Whereas discipline was me showing up to work to begin with. Discipline was me enlisting into the military and, being on board that ship, right? That's the discipline. And I think a lot of people are skipping the discipline and they're going right to the motivation and waiting for them to want to do it. And the truth is we're not always going to want to do it. But once it becomes an instilled behavior, like brushing your teeth, right? You have to do it. It just becomes a part of your daily routine. You miss it when it's not there, but you have to be able to establish that routine. And that's what I work with people on a daily basis, why I need that contact every single day.
Yeah, it's like riding a bike, buddy. The more you do it, the better you get at it, right?
That's exactly. Yeah. But I mean, motivation gets you on the bike, but it's the discipline of staying on the bike, getting back on it after you've fallen off, the commitment, right? We're naturally gifted with it. It's how we learned how to walk. We didn't know how to walk. Actually, we did know how to walk. We just didn't have the skills to perform it. And that's just it. Is if we can start looking at the body as, I'm designed to be healthy, perform repetition.
Yeah, absolutely. And Neil, I know that you spent some time in the Navy, buddy, so I want to thank you for your service to our country. And I also want to know how that experience and your experience as a firefighter sort of shaped the way you look at life and attack it every day, buddy.
Well, the big thing, I mean, for me, I've got a tattoo right here, and it says "Memento Mori," and basically what it is, it's remember death, and it's not meant to be like a morose thing. What it does is it helps me to understand and reminds me to appreciate the breaths that we have in between. Right? It's something that we're all destined to do, and in the Navy, I grew up morbidly obese. I grew up with a speech impediment. I developed an eating disorder. My life was subpar for a big part of it. So when I had the opportunity to join the Navy, what I saw that as is an opportunity to deal with my demons. In the Navy, there was a lot of verbal communication. When I was steering a ship with 500 other members, of the armed forces on it, and I had to relay commands back and forth, right, to the commanding officer. I couldn't have a stutter. I couldn't have a speech impediment. I needed to instantaneously do that, right? So it allowed me to kind of step outside of my comfort zone and actually develop, and because it was, for me, it wasn't anything that was broken. It was purely psychological. It was my self-esteem. So that was a big thing for me. So the Navy instilled a lot of confidence. It allowed me to see that I'm more in charge of myself than I gave myself credit for. I had more ownership of what I did, and the structure. A lot of people confuse structure with rigidity. So I was given an order to complete a task. How that task was completed, I had autonomy. I was able to, as long as it got completed within these certain parameters, mind you. So there were parameters there, and I really started to see that, and so that gave me my own personal structure. So when I left the Navy and got into the fire department, it was more or less a realization that I needed to get there earlier. Going to these, 73% of my calls were first responder calls. So I go with the defibrillator, I go to an accident scene or a medical call. And a lot of it was health related. A lot of it was heart. Alzheimer's, getting lost and patient. So I don't know, like dealing with my own personal nutritional issues and having worked with people kind of freelance, I started to see kind of a common nuance, and it was great to get there, with lights and sirens and be the hero and show up after the fact. But it started to resonate with me that saving a life wasn't delaying someone's death. It wasn't pulling someone from a fiery building to put them into their shitty life, to put them back into that same life where they're morbidly obese, at a risk of heart disease. Their spouse is leaving them because there's no attraction. They're not attracted. They don't love themselves, right? They're not giving their all that they could at work because they're zapped with energy. So me pulling them from this fiery wrecked car or this burning building, it was just delaying the inevitable. It was just, right? So I started to develop this idea of, saving someone's life is actually in the term itself. It's helping them see that the life that they have is worth fighting for, helping improving the quality of life that they have right now, right? There's a saying in the military, in order to take the island, you got to burn the fucking boats, right? No exit, no retreat. And to get someone healthy and feeling good and feeling like they're capable, all of a sudden they start pushing against life. They start lifting the weight. And it's incredible to see. And it's been a total inspiration to me to watch people that are destitute, downtrodden, broken, how strong they actually are at that point, right? When you give them a ray of hope, when you give them that daily contact, show them step by step and work with them side by side. And these people are able to pick themselves up, and they're so much stronger, like a bone that's broken or a muscle that's torn, right? At the point of origin of break or tear, that's when that's where it's strongest. The human body is exactly what we need to be, and what we need to focus on is, if we, which the majority of us are, we are capable of incredible things. The breaking is a privilege. It's not a curse. It's a privilege. It's a test. It's a rite of passage, and we're not looking at it that way. So that's what I saw. So I left the fire department in 2009, and started opening nutritional businesses across my province. I live in Canada. And I've worked with tens of thousands of people over the last 20 years. And a lot of them are in places now that they never thought they'd ever be. And I work with people that a lot of people wouldn't work with, people that are released from prison, people that are on social assistance and things like this, to help them kind of see where they are and what their superpowers actually are. That where they are is actually a great spot. And once you reach that granite foundation of being torn down so far, there's really only one way to go, and that's up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Neil, I live in Canada too, buddy, so I appreciate what you're doing to make our country a more healthier place. And I always wanted to also ask you about your own personal motivation and how you challenge yourself to be 1% better every day, both personally and professionally, and how you equate that to your legacy.
It's, I mean, you said it perfectly. It's directly linked to my legacy. It's really like I'm a big believer in leading by example. I tend to walk softly and carry a big stick. I'm not I'm not a guy that ruffles feathers unless those feathers are presented, within reaching distance. Um, but for me, the legacy is just my kids. I want to be, when I'm gone, I want to be talked about in a favorable manner. I want people to say, that I tried to make a difference. And at the end of the day, whether or not we do, I mean, that's irrelevant. If I'm able to start a fight that I never finish, then I'm okay with that. There's a lot of physicists that believe that as well, where the scientists, they're there to create questions that they may never see the answers to, but they created the question, they created the movement. So a lot of it is just, it's ditching of the ego and the hubris and say, okay, you know what, this is a problem. 67% of people right now in New Brunswick, okay, the province of New Brunswick, so maybe even Atlantic Canada, 67% of the people over the age of 35 are dealing with two or more based on lifestyle and nutrition. But yet we continue to wait until the last moment to deal with it. We wait until we're diagnosed with something or we need medication for something before we deal with it. But the statistical certainty that is going to happen. And there's a quote by I believe it's Albert Einstein. He said, "The world won't be destroyed by people who do evil. It'll be destroyed by people who stand by and do nothing about it." And here I am with all of this experience and all of this insight. And if I'm sitting here not saying things and doing what I'm very, very skilled and good at doing, then it'd be no different than me having that speech impediment and being that selective mute, not being able to answer the phone because my anxiety I was so riddled with anxiety. It would be no different. For me to have something to say and not say it is just as bad as just not saying anything at all. I might as well be a mute. So that's the attitude that I have, is I want my kids to feel proud of their father. So whatever that they do with a sense of pride, whether or not it's anything like me, but at least what they're doing to make a difference and to make an impact. And that's the part that lives beyond us, the stories that people tell, the people that we impact and touch throughout our lives.
Yeah, Neil, I always say that we're all given a platform to make a difference in life, but it's up to all of us to determine which direction we point our compass, buddy. So absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
and a lot of it has to do with our inadequacies. I'm a big follower of the Stoic philosophy, and I believe the obstacle is the way. So everything that I was afraid of led me to this point right now. And if I keep following my fear, then my fear will lead me to, where it is that I want to be, the higher version of myself, the better version, the best version of myself. But if I stay within comfort and familiarity, if I take that easily, traversed route, unfortunately, but that's what's being bought and sold right now. 12 weeks, quick and easy, this, and this, and people are gravitating towards that. Whereas if you're saying, okay, it's going to take time, it's going to take commitment, and it's going to be difficult, but it's going to be worth it, and I'm going to be with you every step of the way, then people start to, okay, well, what's this about now? This guy's telling the truth. He's telling like it is, and he's with me every step of the way. So he's not just kicking me through the door and saying, good luck with it, and give me your paycheck.
yeah, absolutely. And quickly, Neil, tell me, if people want to get connected with you, buddy, what's the best way they can do that?
The best way right now is my website. Just got my website updated and up and running, and it's insightnl.ca. And I'm found on Facebook with under Insight as well, Insight Nutrition Lifestyle.
Fantastic. Well, I really enjoyed our conversation about nutrition lifestyle, your personal life, and everything in between. Your work and the space and time on my behalf, buddy, is most appreciated. And I want to thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you and what you're doing. The questions are phenomenal. You're a great interviewer, and I want you to keep up the good work.